What single moment killed off an entire industry? Hindenburg killed the blimp and airship industry in the cradle. It could have been a good industry, but the fact that it was caught on film and was the first disaster to be caught on film just killed everyone's enthusiasm for airships. 13 hours later, Reddit. Okay, I get it, the industry was dying anyway, but Hindenburg was very much the final nail in the coffin for people of the time, as they could see the disaster and hear the reactions. I read somewhere that the Empire State Building was designed to be a disembarkment station for airships. Yup. But it wasn't too viable, too windy up there. Not steady for disembarking. Fiberglass completely changed the boating industry. It drastically slowed the deforestation of exotic hardwoods. Changed the designs and performance of boats. Changed from skilled woodworkers to more of assembly line setup. Opening of Panama Canal and other notable canals immediately ended entire strings of industries built upon now obsolete shipping lanes. Oh wow. I never considered this. That must have been a huge hit to the industries along the South American coast. I reckon it was similar with the Suez Canal. You can say the modern smartphone killed off many industries at once. GPS, MP3, affordable point and shoot cameras, calculators, etc. Now it's steering towards killing off the 3.5mm headphone jack standard in favor of Bluetooth. I really hate this because I love a headphone jack. I bought 2 different Bluetooth headphones and they can never sync with my Samsung Galaxy 8, so it's just a waste of time and money for me. Syncing issues aside, Bluetooth also sometimes has a noticeable delay, are much more expensive, and it's another battery you have to remember to charge. The cable of regular headphones has never really bothered me, so I don't see any reason to put up with all the disadvantages of Bluetooth. E.T. for the Atari almost killed the video game industry in the West. Atari lost so much money on the game, mostly due to the licensing fees, that they shut production. The West didn't have another game console until the NES. There is a great video about it somewhere, but I can't remember exactly what it was. Angry video game nerd maybe? There were other underlying causes like the console market being overcrowded. But E.T. really feels like it was the jump the shark moment that made everyone think that video games had peaked, were a fad. The manufacturing fiasco, where Jalisco brand Mexican style cheese was mistakenly made from unpasteurized milk taken from cows not farmed to produce raw milk, that killed a dozen or so people, annihilated the raw milk sector of California based Altadena Dairy and nearly bankrupted Altadena founder M.R. Stuve, who spent a fortune trying to convince government officials that raw milk produced properly was indeed safe and healthier for humans to drink. Crash of the Concorde in 2000. No more supersonic flights. The Concorde was reaching end of life anyway, and was never very economically viable. There is hope for a new generation of supersonic airliners that solve many of the problems with the Concorde. There is also the idea being floated of suborbital commercial flights, which would be even faster, and given the demonstrated capability to land rockets, seem more viable than they ever have. The issue with Concorde is that it was far too expensive for far too little decrease in flight duration. More specifically, you could either fly first class in a 747 or other wide-body in absolute luxury, or for the same price, fly in a seat barely larger than premium economy and save a couple of hours. And as flights on regular aircraft became more and more frequent, a business traveler that needed to be at the destination ASAP would likely find that the earliest available arrival would probably be on a regular aircraft, i.e., it doesn't matter if a Concorde flight takes 3 hours less than a 747 if the next available 747 flight arrives before the next available Concorde flight. An incoming Australian gov killed off high-speed internet. Was originally planned for fibre to the house building for every house building. Incoming gov, LNP, changed that to a mix of technologies, and now industries are struggling and the populace are hamstrung with terrible infrastructure. The cotton gin. In 1793, precisely at 11:24 am on a Tuesday in July, Eli Whitney killed the entire manual cotton separation game with the cotton gin. Conversely, he saved slavery in the American South, which was the opposite of what he wanted. Kinda funny how you could want to kill an industry for good, and then single-handedly revitalize it on accident. The diesel emission scandal has almost killed the diesel for small cars and motorsport applications. 11-figure fines. The loss of diesel as a more efficient and environmentally friendly choice. And it resulted a bunch of manufacturers, mostly within the VAG group, Audi and Porsche most notably, completely dumping their diesel development programs overnight. We definitely witnessed the end of the small diesel commuter in the US when that story broke. Everyone was likely doing it. VAG are just the unlucky bastards that got caught. My guess is that we'll start seeing more ultra-high compression gasoline engines following Mazda's advancements. Not to mention the somewhat recent adoption of small turbocharged motors on nearly everything. Hell, Nissan is putting into production a variable compression engine. The tech has been around for a while, but nobody had gotten to the point of being usable in a production vehicle. Mix with modern hybrid tech, it'll be a good bridge moving into fully electric vehicles across the board for the general public. Especially now that we're seeing some manufacturers figure out how to make cars lightweight and still meet modern safety standards. Ford, GM, Jeep, and others have integrated aluminum with their trucks to shed hundreds of pounds. Honda and Mazda have both put out new cars, the Civic Hatch and Miata, that are either absurdly light for its size or comparable to the weight of the same model car from 30 years ago. The Surgeon General's 1964 report on smoking is generally seen as the cause of the 50+ year decline in per capita cigarette consumption that continues to this day. This reminds me of that Mad Men storyline, which was just so good. The Honda CB750. It destroyed the British motorcycle industry overnight and was the head of that tsunami that eventually destroyed the British motor industry. From the largest motorcycle and second largest car industry in the world to a rump today. What is the largest British owned car company today? Morgan, a car largely made of wood. My dad has a CB750. First bike I learned to ride on the street, transitioning from dirt. It was a 1982. This was in 2002. You just pull the bike out of the shed, put gas in it, and it runs. Great bike. Glad he still has it. Will eventually get it to my garage. What's the hardest part about rollerblading? Telling your parents you're gay. Killed an entire industry. Started seeing people rollerblading again last couple years. I was big into it and bladed everywhere and there were so many doing it. Then I was like the last dude out there. Just young ladies doing it for exercise. Then the sports store stopped stocking them and it completely died. But suddenly it's happening again. Because everybody forgot the joke. Nah, we remember the joke. It's just that it's 2018 and we're all gay. Semiconductors used to be made of germanium. The 10th of May, 1954, in one demonstration, a silicon amplifier was dipped in boiling oil and continued to operate. There was a stampede for the phones in the audience. Just imagine. Everything silicon today could have been germanium. Chile had lots of saltpeter mines. They are all abandoned now because of the creation of synthetic saltpeter by Germany in 1909. Edit. Whoa. Didn't expect this comment to get this far. So here goes a little something. My great-grandfather came from Germany to Chile to work in the saltpeter mines at the time of the saltpeter boom in Chile. Just so that a few years later Germany, his country of origin, would take away his job by creating synthetic saltpeter. The worst of lucks in the history of my family. This is a good one. Those saltpeter mines were a huge deal before this happened. Luckily Chile had a shitload of other minerals to transition their economy to. There's those pictures from like 1910 of New York where the whole street is just horse-drawn carriages. Then pictures from 1920 where it's just cars. Ford Model T affordable motorcars killed off the horse industry very quickly. Weird rich women are keeping it alive. And their daughters. Don't forget them. Beavis and Butthead killed the band Winger. Within weeks of the first episode featuring the nerdy Stewart character wearing a Winger t-shirt, the band cancelled their arena tour and their record sales plummeted. Shrek destroyed Smash Mouth's chances of being taken seriously as a band. It's impossible to dissociate the two. I'd say Smash Mouth took care of that themselves. And I genuinely don't mean that in a derogatory way. Their whole ethos was one of fun and lightheartedness. And Shrek just made sure that All Star remains a classic cemented into the minds of several generations. It's a fantastic song that sticks in your head and is easy to sing along to. Sure, we talk about it like it's a guilty pleasure, but we love it because it's pure, unadulterated fun and means so much to so many people who otherwise wouldn't have heard of Smash Mouth. Charlie Brown's Christmas special killed the aluminum Christmas tree industry. I was actually completely unaware that aluminum Christmas trees were real things that existed, and I just wrote it off as a weird quirk of the show when I watched it as a kid. We had one when I was a kid. My parents loved it. They also had a device that kind of looked like a floor fan that had a rotating disc on the front with 4 colored plastic panes and a lamp behind it. Point it at the tree, and the tree changed color every few seconds. Up until the assassination of Colombia's Minister of Justice Rodrigo Lara Bonilla in 1984 by orders of Pablo Escobar, both the Medellin and Cali cartels could traffic cocaine with almost zero control by the Colombian authorities. I was in awe when this happened on Narcos. Could not believe they did something so brazen. But then it only got worse. I'd never really realized the scale of corruption in some countries until I watched the show. This kind of escalation happens everywhere. People craving power will slowly take more and more, bit by bit, so that it is palatable for everyone else to pretend that the little bit is okay or didn't happen. They may be slow, but they are relentless. They only stop when someone makes them, usually by force. From advertising in every aspect of your life to dictatorships, it's the same basic principle. In the United States, railroads killed the canal business. Canal companies knew it was coming and tried to stop the railroads at every turn. That's the most dangerous place to stop them. Not when you're trying to derail your competition. Electric and gas lighting saved the whales. Over 100 years ago they were near extinction because whale blubber was used to light street lights. Electric and gas lights came in and almost overnight whales weren't needed in their numbers for their blubber and they were saved. Wait, so that's why Dishonored uses whale oil to power shit? Dishonored was different. The whale oil was haunted and the whales were sea monsters.